Welcome to the flowerschool.com video library. I'm Leanne Kessler, Director of the Floral Design Institute, here to share with you our latest segment. This time, designing with garden flowers, the fabulous flowers that you find outside in your own yard, in your neighbor's yard, or maybe at the farmer's market. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we live in a gardener's paradise. There are so many things that grow well here, and we have so many choices. Some of these may be familiar to you, some may not, and you may have things that we don't have. So let's kind of go through some of the treasures that I've collected to use today. The first one, Phlomis, also known as the hardy Jerusalem sage. It's got a beautiful yellow blossom as well as sturdy green foliage that drips downward. So it really shows the blooms off and they come and grow up out through the center. Very interesting flower. Then I've got another one that's a bush, actually a couple of things that are bush-like. Pink Deutzia with these beautiful pink blossoms. It's a bush that grows kind of scraggly, so it's best to put back by a fence. And it has these gorgeous pink blossoms. Another bush, it's very woody with gorgeous foliage. It's the variegated euonymus. And this is actually from a friend's yard. He was looking at it thinking he hated it. He wanted to dig it up, and no, you can't dig that up. Let's just prune it down, and darn, I'll have to take it home with me to use it. It's a beautiful, long-lasting foliage. It doesn't dry well. It just shatters and falls apart, but it will last for weeks as long as you keep it wet. Other blooms, I've got some beautiful ladies' mantle for Acamella. It's a bushy little shrub, looks very fragile and delicate, but actually quite hardy. It grows out and blooms in that late spring, early summer, and then it fades as the year goes on. There's actually more than 300 different varieties of the lady's mantle. Astrantia comes from the Greek word for star. And if you look, it has little star-like properties. Make me think of straw flowers as well. They're sturdy. Lower ones sometimes will dehydrate, and you're best to just kind of pluck them off. But the upper ones will hold really, really well in a vase of water. Then another fun, delicate, Brodia. It's also known as a cluster lily. Very sturdy. The individual blooms will continue to open up. These will start to fade, and this will open. And so it gives you life that will last sometimes more than a week in a vase. Fountain grass, very delicate, drought resistant and fast growing. So it's one that farmers enjoy growing for the ornamental use outside in the yard as well as in a vase. Then a couple more things. The Asiatic lily. These are a little bit temperamental. They grow well. They're wonderful. They're sturdy. They do wonderfully strong, great stems. But the problem, they'll grow so tall, so top-heavy, that they start tipping and wiggling. So it's one you need to brace upward, create a trellis or some sort of framework to support it in the garden. Or better yet, just cut it, bring it inside, use it in a vase. And then, of course, the peony, one of the all-time favorites. So feminine, roughly, very fragrant. They start in a tight ball and then open out to this gorgeous bloom. Comes in pinks, whites, corals, reds, and even a yellow, so that they can mix and match however you would like. I think that's everything I have here. We'll design away and look at the variety, so many different colors. It'll make a beautiful polychromatic bouquet. As a flower lover, when I gather garden flowers, I always gather way more than I need. So rather than getting out one vase, I always get out multiple vases. So today, working in a trio, I love the chartreuse green, filling them with water. It's already mixed with flower food to make sure that the flowers will hold well. They've all been hydrated, so they're truly ready to go. That aside, a little bit more water here. Then I start with the heavier things, the woody things, the things that oftentimes I'll just break with my hands. Give it a cut, and then drop it in the vessel. Now when you have a woody stem like this, you can also take your knife, give it a break, and then whittle a little more, like so. So you get more drinking ability. You want them to be able to drink well, and I find that break is best, especially if it gives you a nice ragged edge. And a little bit of whittle, that can help as well. And just mixing and matching between the containers. And by using one that's a little smaller, if you've got smaller items, they can fit right in. Then the euonymus, look at that graceful curve. How perfect. To go ahead and leave that way, give it a nice cut, whittling it down, and then letting it angle outward in the vase, getting fullness started. This one too has wonderful curvature, so giving it a break, it's so woody. Tearing it down, and then letting it come out to the side. Then I have smaller pieces. Cleaning it off, letting that come out to the side in the smaller vessel. Letting it come down. So I've got a little bit of that green and yellow, a little bit of the pink, starting that polychromatic look. And polychromatic is 5 or more colors. So adding more of the yellow and the green, this is a beautiful upright piece. It would be shameful to even cut it apart. So I'm just going to give it a cut and place the whole item down into the vase. There's another one that's nice and full. I'll be letting it come into this vase. This one's a little bit less bulky, so putting it into the shorter vase. And you can see I'm putting nothing that really comes straight up. Everything I place, I'm radiating around so that it adds fullness to the design, getting some movement to the front, to the side, and to the back, and repeating that in all 3 vessels so I get a nice full radial format started. Once I get the base established, I go back to my heavier blooms because they need to be tucked down a little lower so that they don't get too top heavy and wobbly. So heavier would be the peonies. Giving them a cut, removing the lower foliage, and then placing it in, again at an angle, coming through, weaving, and that angle holds it into supporting it exactly where I want it, because all of the foliage builds a nest, and it's a little bit of a nest of flowers and foliage and everything else, but by weaving, I can make sure that things will stay right where I want them to be. I just come in from one side of the vessel, reaching over to the other. Don't want to forget my beautiful little one in the front. Tucking in there. And I have just the 2 lilies. So maybe bringing one tall and stately right there, coming out. And then the other, bring it from the other side, leaving it even a little bit taller, tucking it so that it'll show. There we go. And you can see that the other stems hold it in place so it doesn't move. Now the 2 are so close in height, I'm going to lower this one a little bit more so that they don't line up, making 2 little eyeballs. Lower it and angle it. That way it doesn't balance quite so symmetrically. Then a little bit of the lady's mantle. This is so much softer. You can just come, drape outward. I always think of it as almost adding the whipped cream on top of the other flowers because it's so delicate. Just bringing it in, out to the side. And a little bit down in front. And the stems are so straight and thin that it's easy to just slide it in between the other blossoms, and yet the stem doesn't break. You don't have to worry about that. It goes in beautifully right down into the vase so that it's got lots of water. A little bit more, it gets all tangled together. Making sure I fill in both the front and the back. You don't want it to have a flat side. than other delicate stems. These two are so easy to insert. The Brodia has long, straight, stiff stems that make it just simple to give it a cut and then slide it right down with the other materials, because there's so much room for such a tiny stem. Doesn't create difficulties at all. Maybe coming up towards the center now, because I have enough material in there that it'll hold it upright without any problem. And then not forgetting the front guy again, always adding something short right in there. The addition of the astrantia with its darker color adds depth and texture to the design. Just tucking it in, you can see it quickly adds one more element to the arrangement. Filling a few of them here together. Bring them over to the other vase. And then I have some shorter ones. That's one of the reasons I always use vases of different sizes, because sometimes you end up with a broken flower. And it's too short to use in these. It's perfect to tuck right down into a smaller arrangement. So you're able to use everything. Even if it does get a little broken or short, you can tuck it in and still have the beauty. Filling. Now sometimes it can be scary to work with so many different varieties and so many different colors. And you think, oh, does it match? Does it work? And I always think about Mother Nature. She made all of these beautiful flowers, and she puts them all in the garden, and they're all so fabulous. So why shouldn't we take them and tuck them all into a beautiful arrangement with all the colors, all the forms, all the textures, and create beautiful arrangements? As I finish these, I like the frothy touch of fountain grass. And it doesn't take very much. You just take a few sprigs, leaving it a little longer, letting it come up and over the top of the other materials. Gives a very airy touch. Finding the perfect little spot for it. You can see their grasses just hanging out there. Gives a very casual, weedy almost, like the weeds in the garden look. And as a final touch, I take each vase one at a time. Let's kind of scoot them aside here so that I can. And I look around the edges and go back and add a little bit of the shorter lady's mantle to fill in and drape, adding fullness. Just kind of bringing it wherever it needs to be. Making sure it goes in at an angle so that it comes outward. And then once I have one done, setting it aside and bringing in another. And just turning, tucking wherever I need a piece. That's such a nice long one. I'm going to save that for the taller vase. Look for the smaller pieces. There we go. And it gives a fullness, casual look around the edges. I'm setting it aside. And pulling in the last vessel. And then once again, just turning them to make sure that they're full and luxurious, no matter which side you look. The vases could be placed around the house individually or sold individually. Or if you're planning a big summertime picnic and you're setting up a buffet table, you might want to cluster all of them together and then tie them together with one more element. We have a new product available to us now. It's called flat cane. It's like they use to make baskets. And it comes in strips. You just kind of pull it apart. There's a shorter strip. There's a longer strip. And then it just kind of winds. It's pretty pliable. It's amazing. And it would be quite fun to just take and insert it down into the vessel. So you're anchoring it just as though it's a flower stem, placing it in, and then winding around, making sure you don't damage any of your blooms, kind of coming up and over, maybe down and down into the smaller vase. Let it wind into here, anchoring it in, and bringing another piece, maybe starting it in the little vase. Anchoring it in. Then you can even twist it just on itself. Get a little movement. Watch out for my lily there. I don't want to damage him. There we go. And then winding it around and tucking it back in. And then repeating it. It really just depends on how much you want, how full you want it to be. Maybe coming through here, coming into the larger vase, coming through the spiral from the first one, wrapping it around, up and over and across, and back down. And then taking a look and saying, okay, where else do I need it? Maybe another piece that comes in over here. Bringing it across, and down, and winding it, and then inserting it back in. As you can see, being a professional florist in the summertime is an absolute delight. There's so many wonderful materials to work with. The biggest challenge is learning all the names. I know that when I go to the market and I gather things, I'm constantly having to ask, what is this? What is this? Because there's new and more fabulous, something surprising each and every time I visit. So as you are learning and practicing your flower names, don't be afraid to ask, what is that? And be aware that you're always going to find something new, and that's part of the excitement of being a floral designer. For more creative inspiration and fun with summer flowers, check out our website at flowerschool.com. If you've got questions or you want to contact us, you can reach us through the website or by telephone at 1-800-819-8089. If you'd like to send me a picture of your garden or the flowers you've gathered or the designs you've created, I'd love to see. Use my personal email. It's Leanne, Leanne, at floraldesigninstitute.com. For now, it's your turn. Happy summertime. Have fun and do something you love.